meeting to order. If you would stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome everyone watching at home. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll, please.
Trustee Harn, Trustee Gett, Trustee Dan Mariscal.
Present.
Trustee Diane Mariscal.
Present.
Trustee Reichert.
Present.
Trustee Carter.
Present.
Okay, good to see everyone. Item 4 is approval of the Board of Trustees minutes for Tuesday, November 20th, 2018. And if there's no objection, I'd like to approve both of these sets of minutes. So we would approve the special board meeting minutes for Tuesday, November 20th, 2018 also. So could I have a motion to approve both those sets of minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I do. Any questions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the ayes have it. Madam Clerk, any correspondence?
I have no correspondence.
All right. We would be at announcements. I'm just going to have Sarah give you a quick update on some of the activities that have occurred this holiday season and some of the things we're planning in the future.
Yeah, sure. So we just finished all of our holiday events. Being Small Business Saturday, It's Wonderful Heights, and Chocolate in the Heights. They were all very successful. We had a couple Santa visits, a lot of good sales, some chocolate samples, and the businesses told us that they were very excited with the turnout that they all received. So we consider it a very successful season, and we're starting to plan some events for next year. Some of the returning ones being movie nights, of course. We're going to redo those a little bit, and then a couple new events that hopefully we'll be releasing in the near future. That's all I have.
Well, thank you very much. And there has been an awful lot going on currently, and in the future, we do try and put all of this on the website. So if you look at the website, you will also see a video of the presentation that was given last Friday. Okay, we'll be at trustees' reports. The first is economic and community development. Trustee Mariscal.
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Police, Trustee Carter.
Yeah, I have one thing. Is it the beard?
No Shave November.
Okay, so the No Shave November, the police have donated $1,100 to the school for the food baskets, so, you know.
That's
hands off to the
fantastic.
Police department.
Very good. Anything else, Trustee Carter?
No, I think that's it.
That's it.
Okay. Building and property maintenance, Trustee Gett is unable to be here tonight, so Mr. Sutton, would you?
Well, we do. We had an immediate issue with the vent on the roof when they were up there. Rural, who we have a contract with, they were up there. They submitted a proposal last year that was going to need to be replaced because it was dangerous. We have some carbon monoxide possible issues. Well, as we were up there the other day, he called me out and said that this really needs to be done now. And he said we sent a proposal last year, didn't hear back, so I gave the green light to do it, obviously, because it's a public safety issue. But at first, before I did that, I did get a proposal, and it was $895. So I think that it was something. It was an immediate issue that we need to address. So that's what you'll see in front of you in the bill. So Trustee Gett, of course, isn't here. Normally he would report on this, but it's something that's being the parts have been ordered, and we're keeping an eye on it. So before it's installed, we'll make sure that everybody's safe in the building.
Okay, any questions?
Do we have carbon monoxide detectors in the building?
We do not, and I did ask Chief Walters if we could get some. I think he has quite a few in the basement, so I think that there probably are some downstairs, but I think we should put some more up here. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Reichert, fire?
Thank you, Mayor. The fire department, as everybody probably knows, responded to an apartment fire on Montclair and quickly took care of the situation, so thank you to them. That's all I have.
And thanks to both first responders, police and fire, and everyone who made sure that wasn't a situation that got out of control. So thank you. Any questions for Trustee Reichert? All right. right, on to Public Works. Trustee Harn is not here. Chief Sutton.
Superintendent Marfell and Casey, if you'd like to give any updates, okay.
Yep, got a couple things. Good evening. We completed this week, we completed our Public Works employee evaluations. It was I guess the first inaugural evaluations. They did them several years back, but we haven't done them recently. So they were taken pretty well. And we have great employees, so all the evaluations were pretty good, were very good, and so it was a success. The other thing I have is, as we know, Mr. Goff is going to be retiring. September 1st is his last day. We are now in the planning stages of hiring his replacement. We hope to have the public announcement for applications out after the first of the year with a hire date, hopefully March the 1st. So that you'll see more information about that coming out hopefully soon. So that's all I have. I think Mike's got a couple things.
Thanks, Dave.
What's the job title on that going to be?
Public Works Labor.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple things. We are in the process again of picking up the leaves. We got the sweeper out. I know it snowed in November, 10 inches, so everybody been bugging me about the leaves, so we're getting those, make sure the drains are clean. I think that was part of the problem over in Pekin when it flooded over there, was a lot of leaves, and they did have a lot of hail too, but I mean, so we're getting that, so we're moving up this way. I think we're over on the east side of Prospect, Samuel area in Duryea, so that, and I'm in the process of selling the 2 trucks we have, so I get the final dollar amount, which is looking good. I'll let everybody know just once I get it in hand, so I don't want to say nothing until I get it in hand. So District 150 is really wanting to purchase the trucks. Their fleet is pretty, I guess, low on maintenance, or old, I should say old, and it's taking a lot of money to fix them in old parts they can't find. So that, and then still working on the lights. So if anybody has anything with lights or anything around here, just let me know and I'll call them in or get them fixed. So that's basically it right now. So we're waiting on the snow, get these new trucks out on the road, but I don't think it's going to happen. So.
Any questions for these two? All right, go ahead, Dustin.
Thank you. I just have one other update under Public Works. As you know, G&O has our garbage and recycling contracts now. They delivered their recycling totes today, and we've been fielding a lot of different calls, kind of what is this? The majority of the people know what it is, but the issue that we're receiving is that they're not the same size as the totes that Eagle had. Some of the people are expecting a larger tote. That wasn't the case, but we're going through the process to correct that, and we will get it corrected. But if you have any questions, any of your neighbors have any questions, just direct them here. We'll make sure that we are on it. But it is an issue because we agreed that we wouldn't lose any type of service, whether from the totes or the company. So, we're listening to the complaints, but they'll be addressed. So.
Okay.
Now, will everyone receive one of those? Or
Yes.
just the people that have?
The people that had them before, correct.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, any questions? Anyone else? All right, on to administration. So Trustee Diane Mariscal.
Unless you have something.
Just the only thing I have is that obviously last Friday we had a press conference with the opening of the Performing Arts Center, which is very exciting news for the Village of Peoria Heights. Also announced a couple other plans, the boutique hotel, and also future plans for the Gray Boy site. So I think as far as any updates, I think the majority of the people have either seen those plans or were there. So very exciting times for us. So that's all I have on that, Mayor.
Questions? Okay, I would just add, I think we probably had about 150 people that did attend the announcement, and quite a bit of coverage, and we were happy to have Congressman LaHood, Senator Kaler, Representative Gordon Booth, and County Board Chairman Andrew Rand, among a whole lot of other elected officials who were there. And thanks to all the employees, administration, Public Works, who did Public Works helped so much setting up, administration coordinated everything, police department handled a lot of traffic there that day, so I really appreciate everyone's efforts. Okay, we've got comments from the audience. Any comments from the audience tonight? Hi, Kathy. If you'd give your name, if you're coming forward, give your name and address, please.
Kathy Stevenson, 4536 North Miller in Peoria Heights. I'm a member of the zoning board, but tonight I'm really just speaking as a concerned citizen. Last night, the ZBA denied the site plan for the 19-unit Samuel condo development, primarily for insufficient parking and suitability based on the mass of the development for the residential neighborhood that it sits in. As for the parking, the developer was only providing 14 parking garages for 19 units that are going to be priced at $300,000 and up. There's no other dedicated outside parking for those 5 units. The other parking is strictly behind the garages, so you'd have 2 cars parked behind each other. The village parking requirements were reduced from 2 to 1.5 in B1 in late 2017, and the reason being was we felt that 1.5 was more reflective and a little bit more realistic, and I thought developers would actually self-regulate themselves and make sure that they were providing enough parking to make the development successful. So currently on this development, based on how it's maxed out the size, there's really no foreseeable way to provide enough parking for the development. And secondly, in terms of mass, and I always say a picture's worth 1,000 words, the PAPS building sits on a smaller footprint. It's going to be on it's a larger footprint than the PAPS building, which is very concerning for the neighbors and where it sits. And that was one of the primary reasons we feel that it's definitely going to affect not just how they enjoy their property, but also their property values. I also have a picture that just shows the skyline view, and I can pass this. You see where PAPS is, you see Larry Herman. Samuel sits uphill from the Herman development. This building would be 51 feet versus 47. Sitting uphill, you probably got another story. So I can pass these along if you want to look at. And when I say the PAPS building, it's the 4-story square section kind of the PAPS building. The borders.
Taller than that, it'd be taller than Larry's apartment?
It would appear to be, it is taller than Larry's. It's 51 feet versus his is 47. And then in terms of the PAPS, I don't have I just know PAPS is 4 stories. I don't have the height on the PAPS. They didn't have that in public record. And really what it comes down to is the redevelopment agreement that was signed in February of 2018 and approved by the board required that there would be a multi-use building that was designated to one specific parcel. So it actually listed one specific parcel. According to the developer, the numbers that they looked at apparently when they signed that redevelopment agreement no longer work. So they've had to change from the mixed use to a condo development. And as a result of that, they're using 2 lots instead of the 1 parcel that was identified. And they're really maximizing the space. So the parcel itself, the development itself will sit 8 feet from the neighbor to the east property line. It will sit 10 feet closer to the street than any of the other homes on the street. It will be 4 stories, and there will be a patio that will be within 1 foot of the property line of the neighbor. The rest of the development, there's some grass on the front, but not a lot, maybe an 8-foot buffer that's just grass, and then the rest of it is basically parking or access to the garages. So there's a number of concerns, but there's no allowable space to provide any kind of buffer in terms of the neighbor to the east, or even the neighbors to the south will be affected because it sits uphill. So if you've got a 6-foot fence and you've got that type of a building sitting up, they're looking right down into your yard. And then with the second phase of development, which is this phase of it, it becomes even more dense because they want to go to 30-foot lots. And that first block, where most of the properties are owned, it averages about a 48-foot frontage and varies from 30 to 75 feet. So they want to go to 30 feet, and then they actually want to have only 3-foot setbacks. So I'm just concerned in terms of the neighbors. It's not going to look like this. You could have a house here, you could have a ranch, you can have, so it's going to be depending on who sells and who doesn't. So my concern is that this first project is going to make it very dense. The second project is going to make it even more dense. All the more reason why we need to address this parking concern. to make sure that the development is successful. And then I did just have, there are ways that you can, there are plans out there. This is a 3-bedroom, narrow lot line home, new home that, I just pulled the plan. So there are ways that you could fit something in there to make it look a little bit more seamless with the existing housing. And then just to summarize, and again, I'm not a developer, I don't know the cost, but I think what we want to have happen is something that makes the neighborhood better, helps to have other people invest in the neighborhood. It's going to bring more monies into the village, and it should be successful for the developer, and that's really what I think we all want. So in a different location, I think if this were to be across the street on Duryea, where there's not as much residential, you've got the condo development, or the condo development there, where you've got the hotel that's going to wrap the corner, you've got the Duryea apartments, and again, you've got some businesses, but it's a little bit more open. I think it would be more suited for that type of environment in terms of the scale of the development. So I just want to make sure, right now, we're basically, as a zoning board, and I just feel like as a village, we're trying to put a square peg in a round hole, and it's been very challenging. So I'd just like to make sure that you take these things into consideration. I know you'll be voting on our recommendation for the site plan. Thank you.
Kathy, I just have one question. Do you expect, I know you had some dialogue with the developer, do you expect a revision for the January meeting?
She did not state that she would have a revision for the January meeting. We specifically, normally the January meeting falls on Martin Luther King's holiday, so normally we don't have it. We actually went to the step of setting up a January meeting. The board did, to make sure that we had it in case it did carry over, but we have not heard anything yet.
And what is that deadline for her to submit something?
Sarah, you would know, it's usually two weeks before the meeting, so with the holiday.
14 days is the legal requirement, couple days for prep work. However, with the holiday, I'll need to sit down and really look at it, but it's probably the end, early to mid next week.
Okay.
But I can look later at an exact date and we can talk about it.
Okay. And the meeting, we actually set it up, I think, in the summer, because we realized with the deadlines that kept moving that we just felt that we needed to have something set up.
And just one thing that Kathy mentioned is the redevelopment agreement. That's something the board will have to review because there's been some changes, so that'll be coming to you soon, so.
When's the expiration date on the preliminary development agreement, do you know offhand?
The ground was supposed to be broke by the end of this month, so. But there's some other issues, obviously, that need to be addressed in that agreement, so.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for being here tonight, and I hope the clerk, I know she did, captured your remarks about neighborhoods. I know we all share the same concerns and goals, and we want to make sure that everyone knows that the Heights is open for business, but a couple of things that have changed, that Chief Sutton and I have changed. Some projects that were approved in the past did not go through the zoning board, and my position is that everything, whether it's a hotel, whether it's residential development, it's going to go through the zoning board, because I cannot compliment, we should be so proud of the people on our ZBA that really do an awful lot of work, and Kathy and Rick Pitzel have spent hours, not in probably, 8-10 meetings with this petitioner?
There's been a substantial amount of meetings to try to get, we started working to get the October meeting, and that was for the townhouses, and then we started working to get the information together for the November meeting, and then realized that was going to happen, and then obviously to the December meeting, and we were still missing some information, had not been submitted.
But lots of time, and it's to try and, get the petitioner where they need to be. But right. You and your committee just deserves a lot of thanks, I think.
Thank you.
And you did all of you did a fantastic job last night. But in the end, some of the developers may resist this, but I think in the end we get a better product. And if you have a good project, it's going to get through fine.
Right. And I think it's important that you want it to be successful. You want to be successful on all of them, but out of the blocks, so the neighbors have faith in what's happening. And when you start to change residential, it hits home pretty hard. And I would not want to be the ranch house next to a 4-story building. That would 8 feet from my property line.
And lastly, if any of you have questions, I would recommend that maybe you try and sit down with Kathy. You can use the office upstairs anytime. I know she's very helpful at meeting with folks, but if you want to meet in small groups with her to get some background, I think it would be a good idea.
Yeah. And we did take the time to direct, some of the things are not within our kind of privy, so we've directed, you need to talk to whether it's referring it to Dustin, to administration, or referring them to the village engineer, just to make sure, because there were a lot of issues that came up in October about traffic flow and infrastructure. Cheryl, you were at that meeting, Dustin and the mayor, and Mark, and so we wanted her to be prepared for this one in terms of making those meetings, and they did not take place.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, who else? Anyone else? Okay, public comment going once, twice. Public comment is closed. Before we go any further, if there's no objection, I'd like to vary just a little bit. Nick Nelson is here, and he's coming from out of town and probably heading out of town, and if we could be respectful of his time and take these two ordinances under new business. Is there any objection to that? Okay, welcome, Nick. So we would be at ordinance 2018-1578, an ordinance abating special service area number 1 taxes for the year 2018 to pay debt service on taxable general obligation bonds, Series 2016. Trustee Diane Mariscal, could I have a motion to approve that?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-1578.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
I do. Okay, welcome, Nick. Go right ahead. Would you, for the audience at home, tell everyone who you are and what you do for us and what we're doing here with this resolution?
Sure. My name is Nick Nelson. I'm with Jacob and Klein. We represent the village in administering their TIF districts. So this first ordinance is to abate the levy for the general obligation bond for basically the Trefskers project. The levy was set at, I think, a flat $180,000 per year. That bond was supposed to be paid out of all sources of revenue generated by Trefskers. It's been wildly successful. The sources of revenue have far exceeded what the projections were going to be, so the village is able to rely on that and not on the general obligation. So this ordinance basically abates that, so the taxpayers won't have to have any obligation on it. And then this, did you call the second ordinance? I can go into that.
No, let's get this first one out of the way,
Sure.
Unless you can address the second one now. But
Yeah, I can. So in the second ordinance is to abate the special service area tax levy for the Trefskers property. That's the ultimate backstop for the bond, so before it ever get to the taxpayers to begin with, there'd be a separate property tax levy on just the Trefskers site. So this is kind of a backstop in case the sales tax revenues or the property tax increment isn't enough to pay the bond payment, then this SSA would kick in and cover the difference. So again, it's done so well from the primary sources of revenue that it's more than enough to cover it. So, and then I would also add, and we can probably talk more about this later, but there's probably starting to be some extra money in the bond reserve account that's called for in the redevelopment agreement. Anything beyond that minimum level to fund the bond reserve account, you can probably spend in other areas and other TIF projects. So we'll get the numbers together on where it needs to be and how much is in there, and then...
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that at our next departmental meeting and get into that, but you brought us a lot of good news tonight. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Nelson? Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll on the first ordinance to...
Trustee Dan Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert?
Aye.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we would be at ordinance 2018-1579, an ordinance abating the general obligation taxes levied for the year 2018 to pay debt service on taxable general obligation bonds. Trustee Mariscal, if I could have a motion to approve that as well?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-1579.
And a second, please.
Second.
We have it. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Dan Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert?
Aye.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you. Back to the regular order of business. We would be at old business. Thank you, Nick. Any old business come before the board? Okay, right back into new business. The first is an appointment of Nicholas Tejirna to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I would ask for a motion to approve that.
I make a motion.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Before we vote, Kathy, would you, Nick, come up here, please? And I had someone reach out to me, and Nick reached out and said he had an interest to serve in the committee. Before I appointed him, brought this appointment to you tonight, rather. I wanted him to meet with Kathy and Rick and explain the duties. So Kathy, take it away.
We're really happy to have him. His background, it's Diharina, correct?
Correct.
Anyways, he is from the Chicago area originally, has relocated to Peoria, served in the military, so we all have him a dread of gratitude for that, and is now in the reserves and continues with that. But he has an interest he really has enjoyed the Heights, chose to live here, actually relocated here once he had settled kind of in Peoria. So we're really excited to have him. He actually came and audited one of our meetings and actually audited a second one last night. So I think he's in some ways had baptism by fire in terms of the meetings. But we're actually doing something where we're going to take the opportunity. Normally there's not a lot of training, but we've decided with some of the new faces, we're actually going to take an opportunity to, at one of our meetings, to actually dissect, walk through some of this so that he knows the tools that are available through GIS and the different things that we use to analyze the different development that come in front of us. So that's going to take place in January. So I'll let you talk, but we're really happy to have him.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, as she said, my name is Nicholas Tejirina. I was born in Chicago, and I moved to a neighboring suburb called Berwyn, Illinois, next to Cicero. I don't know if any of you are aware of that area, but after high school, I joined active duty Air Force. I did that for my first enlistment, and then I got out, wanted to see what the civilian life was all about. And then I had the opportunity, my buddy Donnie Henry told me about the National Guard here for the Air Force. So I joined there. My background, my AFSC, my job is finance. So I've always had an interest in that. So I've been there since 2008. I work there full time. I'm a civilian during the week, but I also drill on the weekends. And the reason why I'm so interested in politics is growing up I really wasn't, but in 2008 I saw a guy by the name of Ron Paul, and he was everything that I thought America should be. So from then I just had this urge to get involved any way I possibly could. And I saw this opportunity, and I just want to do everything I can to make a difference and to, do the best I can for the place I live at. And I'm definitely proud to be a resident and citizen here at Peoria Heights. I think it's a great community. It's a lot better than where I grew up in Chicago, and it's a nice breath of fresh air, and I'm just really, really excited to dive right into this and learn all I can. Thank you.
Well, I'm grateful for your service to the country, but in a selfish way, as mayor of the village, I'm excited to get you on board. And not only is the village open for business, we're open for people who want to serve the community, and we can always use more people. We've got plenty of ways to get you active and involved, and we're going to get you busy. You were here last night. You sat
Correct.
through that. So
yes.
Any questions, board, or any comments? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Dan Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert? Aye. Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Kathy's going to work you hard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we would be at approval of Chuck's Auto Sales Special Use Permit. Trustee Dan Mariscal, I'd ask for a motion to approve this, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve Chuck's Auto Sales Special Use Permit.
Do I have a second? I do. Okay, Chief Sutton or Dan, go right ahead on this.
Yeah, as you guys know, this is just a matter of housekeeping. It's a quarterly review. As always, he passes PHPD inspection, and should we approve it tonight, it'll be valid through March 24th of next year.
Thank you. Good explanation. Any trustees, or any questions for Trustee Mariscal? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Dan Mariscal.
Aye.
Trustee Diane Mariscal.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert. Trustee Carter.
All right, that passes on to approval of Katie's Cars special use permit. Trustee Dan Mariscal,
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve Katie's Car special use permit.
do I have a second?
Second.
I do. Okay, go ahead, sir, right ahead.
Similarly, this is just another order of housekeeping. It is an annual review. Should we approve it tonight, it'll be valid until December 17th of next year. It does place a limit on the number of cars that he can have on the lot at 10 and the number of golf carts at 40.
Questions?
I'm just curious, why is this like at the middle of the month? Why isn't it at the beginning? It says December 18th, why? That just seems odd. Why isn't it at the beginning, like January 1 or?
It's the cycle it's always been on.
Just following the cycle, I think.
Right. Whenever it was first approached to the board, I'm sure they took that date and just went quarterly from there. Yeah.
That's fine.
Anyone else? Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Dan Mariscal.
Aye.
Trustee Diane Mariscal.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert.
Aye.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Next, approval of Metro Auto Sales special use permit. Trustee Mariscal,
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to approve Metro Auto Sales special use permit.
in a second, please.
Second.
I have it. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. If you guys recall, I think it was our last regular board meeting that we had, we approved, I think it was, well, actually, we didn't end up approving the ZBA's recommendation, but we ended up allowing Metro Auto Sales to be able to operate within the village. So this
Correct.
gives them formal approval through the special use permit. Is that correct, Council?
That is correct. Something has happened, though, since the last meeting and just recently. I got an email from the attorney representing Mr. Gates indicating that he wanted the special use permit issued to an entity that he had created to operate the used car dealership. And I inquired about, what's the name going to be on the business? Because a lot of times you have a corporation, or in this case, a limited liability company set up, but you don't use that name. You use what we call an assumed name or a doing business as name. And so I asked the simple question, what's the name of the business going to be? And still have not heard back. The entity that's operating the used car lot is called Big Gates Auto, LLC. And I think the village needs to know what the name of the business is, as well as the ownership of the proprietor behind the business, before we actually issue the permit. Again, it's kind of a technicality, but I at least want the board to know about it. So it's entirely possible that it will be Metro Auto Sales, but owned by Big Gates Auto LLC, but I can't get confirmation of that, or at least I haven't as of when I left the office tonight at about 5 o'clock.
So we can make that part of the motion if the maker agrees that we're approving this tonight contingent on
Correct.
knowing the name of the business before the permit is issued.
Exactly, and as long as it is an entity owned and controlled by Mr. Gates.
Is that
I
okay
think
with
that's
the
appropriate.
maker and of the motion? And
As long as there's no objections from any of the other board members.
any objections?
Well, do we have to approve this before we find that out? Can we table this until we find out?
You absolutely could table it. Again, it's kind of a technical.
Does it seem shady to you?
It does not. I can understand why an applicant would, hold off spending the money to incorporate a business until they find out if they're actually going to be able to operate as planned. So I don't see anything necessarily underhanded, but I think when I asked the question, I don't know if they had thought through, are we going to use the entity name, or are we going to have a DBA business name that's different from the entity, all of which is legal, but all of which we need to know in order to issue the special use permit. Because you don't want to drive by there and see a name up there that you don't recognize, that may or may not be who you granted the special use. It kind of undermines the special use process. So I would say I would be comfortable if you were to approve this tonight, subject to documentation of both the business name and the actual name that they're going to use to conduct business under.
And we could hold on to that permit until that's proven.
Absolutely. I think the permit needs to be held until we have that documentation.
And how long would we do that? How long would we hold that?
Meeting in January.
Oh, yeah.
So that pushes him back to the village.
Yeah, that's true.
You could approve it, and we could hold the permit here until he
Okay.
answers that question
Yeah.
through council.
And I would be comfortable with it, and I can divine from, the paperwork that they submit, assuming they submit it, exactly what's happening. But if they're going to conduct business with a name different from the entity that owns the business, then I need to see the proper filing with the state, so that anybody that buys a car there knows exactly who the owner is. That part I feel is important.
Right.
And it's easy to document if you do it right.
Okay.
So I would be happy to verify that it's been done right, but as of today, I don't have that.
Okay.
So is he doing business now down there?
Look, there are cars there, but he's not to do any business, and he's been informed of that numerous times.
He's not going to do anything until this.
Correct.
Well, it could be something as simple as backlog in the state, Secretary of State's office.
I happen to know from personal experience, the Secretary of State is very slow this time of year.
Okay, so if we're all in agreement, we know what we're doing here?
What are we doing here?
We're going to approve this, subject to verification before the permit is issued. No permit will be issued until we can verify what company is doing business there.
I had one other small order of business. Looks like there's a typographical error on item number 10 on the special use permit. I'm assuming for hours of operation, you're looking from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.?
Yeah.
Probably doesn't make a difference, but,
We'll get that in the
legal
record.
technicalities.
No, that's a good catch. We'll make sure that's in the record, Sarah.
I'll make that change.
Good teamwork. All right, Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to call the roll.
Trustee Dan Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert? Aye. Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Okay, we would be at approval of a payment to Rural Mechanical Services Incorporated for $895. Trustee Gett is absent, so could I have another trustee make a motion to approve that?
Make a motion, we approve the payment to Rural.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Chief Sutton.
This is the bill that I had mentioned in the trustee reports regarding the vent on the roof that's being, like I said, I would imagine they would start with that repair within the next week. Any questions on that? And again, I was correct, $895, so.
Okay, thanks for being proactive and getting that taken care of. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Dan Mariscal? Aye. Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert? Aye. Trustee Carter?
Okay, it looks like we have one final resolution, ordinance 2018-1576, 2018-2019 levy for the village and the library. Trustee Diane Mariscal, could I have a motion to approve that, please?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2018-1576 and 2018-2019.
Thank you. In a second?
Second.
Okay, Diane or Chief Sutton, tell us what we're doing here.
I have just a little highlighted thing here, but if you know more about it, feel free. But what I've got here is that it's the annual village levy that has to be filed with the Peoria County Clerk, and we're proposing a levy with a 4.99% increase. All increases will go to the Peoria Heights Police Pension Fund. We did discuss this at the departmental, so all we really need to do is just approve it.
Thank you. Very well done. Any questions? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Dan Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert?
Aye.
Trustee Carter?
All right, we would be at Treasurer's Report. Madam Clerk, would you read that, please?
The grand total in the Village of Peoria Heights accounts is in the amount of $1,871,000, or $607.56. Sorry about that. And the grand total in the waterworks is $733,752.56.
Could I have a motion to approve the Treasurer's Report?
I make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any questions on the Treasurer's Report? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Dan Mariscal? Aye. Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert? Aye. Trustee Carter?
Okay, council has brought to us an issue he would like us to discuss in executive session.
Correct.
We will go into executive session if the board chooses to do so, and then we will come out and adjourn and not conduct any business, nor will we take any action. So before I ask for the motion, I do want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, everyone here in the village and all of our staff, and safe travels if you're traveling. So could I have a motion to go in executive session?
I make a motion to go in executive session.
And we need that,
Yes, it would be Section 2C6 of the Open Meetings Act, sale of property.
in a second?
Second.
All right. Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Dan Mariscal? Aye. Trustee Diane Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert?
Aye.
Trustee Carter?
All right, so we are going into executive session to discuss the sale of property. We will come back here to only adjourn and not take any action. Okay, we are back in regular session, and there is no further business for us to conduct tonight, so I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
I do. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We are adjourned.
Everybody have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much.
When is our next meeting then?
15th.